Psychotoxin.
How about that? Welcome to the very first of hope many should be a good time here of our little talking session or a little podcast, and we're calling it Talk Nerdy with Us. And it's going to be with me, Jason, Chris, and Bobby.
Hey.
Good evening, ladies. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great.
Good.
How are you?
Real good.
What's everybody up to tonight?
Homework.
Homework?
Yep.
Homework. You're always doing homework.
Yep.
Nerd.
Can't get me.
Perfect nerd to talk nerdy.
Yeah, we can't get more nerdy than that, right?
Oh,
I
we
say,
can.
yeah, we could get really nerdy. Matter of fact, let's get so nerdy. Why don't we tell everybody, be each other's interviewer and learn a little bit about each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Big Mouth. Pop the cherry. Go ahead, fire away.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'll fire away at you, Mr. Myers. Okay, so tell us what you're working on.
I got this new podcast, so it's gonna be me and a couple of chicks. We're gonna talk and interview authors and artists and reviewers and fans and readers and anybody we want to, because we can, because we're intrigued and we want to know more about everybody that we're into. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've got a book coming out. It's going to be the third in the trilogy of chapbooks, and it is called Hoofs. Hoofs? Hoofs. What do you call it? Okay, you got deer. Deer have feet. Those feet are called what, Bobby?
Bare feet? No, they're called hoofs.
They're what?
Hoofs.
Hoofs?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chris, same question. You got deer feet. What are they called? Hoofs or hooves?
Hoofs.
Hoofs?
Hoofs.
Yeah.
Everybody up here calls them hooves.
But
I call them hoofs.
Yeah, they're
family
hoofs.
call them. They're not hooves. They're hoofs.
But that's the same analogy as, because what do y'all call that body of water that's underneath the bridge? That's not an ocean, not a river, but a
Crick?
All right.
What? No.
What do you call it?
I call it a
Crick.
creek.
No, it's crick.
No. Oh
Crick.
my goodness.
It's crick.
Crick.
Words are so funny, ain't they?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I got Hoofs coming out. It's coming out on. It's a story based on a story of me talking to my son Lucky, and in the story it is Lucky has got a black eye from taking a football to the face, and I'm getting kind of proud of him in the story because he's not crying, and I was expecting him to cry because he's 11 years old and just took one to the face, so he's not crying. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. You want to tell you about the time I got the worst black eyes in my life? And he's like, "Did you say black eyes?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Black eyes." He goes, "Yeah." So we'll come inside, and the story takes off from there. And it's extreme. It's the first time I've used a trigger warning in writing, but I did it clover and clever by putting it in like page 30 or 40 or something in there. So that's what coming out, but it's coming out on Lucky, who is the main character in the story, on his birthday, which is March 15th, which for those word nerds that, paid attention back in English class, there was Beware the Ides of March from Billy Boy Shakespeare. Well, that's my son Lucky's birthday, so we always said Beware the Ides of March. He's the main character. What better time than to release it on his birthday?
Cool.
So that's what I'm working on now. But I'm also in the progress of writing Pogo, which is a serial killer story for an invite-only anthology, the words. And it is, you have to take a different take on a serial killer. So I was given and got to, a choice, and I said, hey, can I get John Wayne Gacy? And she said, yeah, he's available. I said, dibs. And that was going to be so fun because my twist when I figured out what I wanted to do is I'm writing the story through the eyes of John Wayne Gacy's pet dog, Pogo.
Oh, that is so nice. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be like this cool, fun take on how to tell a story and how to do a twist. And it's going to be graphic and it's going to be gross and it's going to be fun. And I've got my first work with Psychotoxin coming out this summer, I believe. And it is for a Beatles-themed anthology. And I got, assigned a story to a song title from the album from Sgt. Pepper's. So
wow.
I got to do with a little help from my friends. And I'm so proud of that story. That's a good one. So that one's coming out this summer. I got 4 other anthologies I got to write for, including your guys' stuff. So that's what I'm doing.
Yay.
I'll ask you later.
So just out of curiosity, okay. So as the author yourself, how important is swag on selling stuff? And if you do have swag, where can people get your stuff at?
I love swag so much. Harley swag, I love it. It's funny because I'll say, what anagram do I want to wear today? Like, do I want to wear, CPP because I've got my Clover Peak Publishing shirts and my hat and stuff, or do I want to wear my HD for my Harley Davidson? Do I want to wear work for, ATG? What letters am I wearing today? But, I've got swag for days, but it's because it's fun. It's a good way to get your stuff out there. Get your own bookmark in your own book. When you're on the table selling it, boom. Put
Awesome.
Attach a price tag. Do what you got to do. Just, invest a little bit and it goes a long way. I love swag for days.
For days. Do you have any events coming up?
Yes. I got a bunch of little local ones here in the Toledo and surrounding areas for table events and signings and such. And I got the TBR Festival, the TBR Con coming up sometime on my calendar wall, which is not behind me. So, yes, I've got events.
That's super cool. Okay. Okay. As an author that could inspire younger authors, or just keeping the word out there, keeping the youth entertainment up and stuff like that. I'll read, because reading is kind of dying out. It feels like a little bit. I mean, to get my kids to read a book, why would you? I mean, how, as a dad yourself, how would you get your child interested and find their do they love horror? Do they love a romance? I mean, how do you find that with your kids? I guess I could go before both of you.
They get no choice because dad's going to tell them a dad story every time. Hoops is a dad story. Cupid is a dad story. This phases is just filled with just stories I could sit and have around and just done talking around the campfire. And hey, kids, I'm going to tell you a story. They're like, oh, that's gross. I'm like, right. And it would be just off the top of my head, you can start spitting a story to your kids. So I'm like, and then I'll ask them, what are you into? And then they, of course, take advantage of the libraries at their school, and they're always into getting, checking books out and everything. Somebody just popped a message. Am I doing something wrong?
See me. Oh, let me see. Let me see if I can do that.
You broke it.
I think we're good, guys.
Okay. But yeah, they take advantage of the libraries at their school because they can. Why not? And they're always burying their face in movies and their phones and everything. So when they finally find something they're into, bang, around. That's cool. They love scary stories to tell in the dark. They love they my kids grew up with Diary of a Wimpy Kid and R.L. Stein. They grew up Goosebumps. They grew up on the stuff that I grew up on, but they're Harry Potter by choice. They read what they want to read because they like to read. And when they actually have to fill out those forms and I make them sign, I have to sign up, saying that they read such and such block of time. I sit there, I watch them and they read it. And I'm like, all right, now tell me about it. So I'm like, you got to do it. I suck at math. I suck at science, but I was always good at English. I always did well. So
right.
They seem to take after me, and their mom was an avid reader too. She was always reading. I remember she got me into the Hunger Games. She blew through that once, and she goes, "Read these," poured them on me. And I was like, "Oh, all right, I'm into it. Let's go." So, yeah, she's still in the kids. Hopefully,
Right. All right, Chris. You want to ask anybody any questions?
I want to what?
Yeah. All right.
Agent Myers.
On to Bobby. So you have two books that are out, but you're working on your third in your series. Tell us a little bit about that without, giving us too much.
Yeah. Okay. So the Bonnie series is loosely based off of my childhood, and so you'll find the main character is Bonnie, and you'll just follow her through some of the hell that she got to navigate through at such a young age. And then, as she's growing, you're watching everything play out, and you're realizing because all the stuff that this kid got to go through, she's missing those milestones of having friends or first boyfriend, all of the milestones that we get to enjoy as growing up. So as she navigates the third book, she's finally in adulthood, and she's finally dealing with it. She realized that just because that's her mom or stuff doesn't mean she has to put up with that toxic in that toxic environment, and leaves and starts trying to figure out who she is, because even at her age now, she has no clue who she is. She's just figuring it out.
Okay. What are some of your future plans as a writer?
Couple projects going on. I'm excited to finish up the Bonnie series. And then, of course, we're doing our book together. It's the first thriller, because I want to span. I want to be able to
go backwards. Hang on. Why the name Bonnie?
I don't know. It was just it's something that just
author.
Huh?
I'm not stumping you. Go ahead, answer. Why Bonnie?
It was because Bonnie is me. So just take away the ends and put some, take away the B's and put some ends, and you got somebody totally different without it actually being me.
Wow. So you switched 2 letters, huh?
Yeah.
So your plans.
Pretty creative, huh?
I like it. I dig it. 100%. Fire away.
All right. So your plans. We've got our book, first thriller, / erotica. What else?
Then we are working on it's a couple books with a whole bunch of amazing authors. Waverly Lane. The first book should be out this year. I'm so excited about it. I mean, we got some big names. We got you, of course. We got Mr. Myers over there. We got Jay Bauer, Merle, Megan, Stockton. So many, and we're just coming together. And that's the whole point of me and you creating KPP.
Yes.
We want to show that everybody can work with everybody. We're going to have our highs and we're going to have our lows, but we're going to see through it, and we're here to do a job. We're here to entertain and to tell stories.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Where do you find your inspiration from?
Actually from my people, Bonnie, I found the Bonnie series. I obviously found it through stuff that I've been through. But lately I'm finding my inspiration from you and Jason, and because now I know I can step outside that realm. I don't have to be who I was trained to be. I can start finding myself, and it's so fun to do with you guys.
We
You
love
do
it.
realize it's called fiction. It's all make believe anyways. Be who you want to be. Bonnie. On to you, lady. What else you got?
All right. So again, kind of piggybacking off of your plans. So 2024 so far has been like really amazing, kicking off with so much. Tell us what we can expect. Do you have any? I know that we together have some events that we're going to be going to. So what can we expect?
Oh my God, you could expect me and my two best friends doing this podcast for 2024 and beyond, hopefully. Expect I'm going to go to West Virginia with you in just a couple months, right? When's that, April?
Yep.
In April. And then, of course, we got the St. Louis event and we got the Texas Con. That's in November, I believe. I don't know.
That's in July.
Yeah. Chris is my date keeper.
Yep.
But then hopefully, I'll.
My email. I'm like, what? There's a calendar in my email.
And then don't forget, we also have the September event in Knoxville with the one and only Jason Myers.
Yes.
And
It's going to be so fun.
And Megan is the one hosting that one, so that's exciting.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So moving forward, what are some of your favorite movies?
Nice.
Oh my God. I love, this is going to sound so weird. Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, which is both prison movies, but they are so great, right? They tug at your heartstring. Those I would say are my favorite, but unfortunately, since we are so busy, I haven't even got to watch. Oh, you know what? A Time to Kill is my favorite too. I love that one. I don't know if you've seen that one. That's a tearjerker.
All right.
John Grisham, nice. I grew up middle school reading John Grisham because the client. I was like, Brad Renfro was the dude, right? So I was like, oh, I like that kid. And then he was in that, and I'm like, that was a book? Cool. And I ate it up, and that, and then, The Firm. Oh, I used to love Grisham.
All right.
Bangarang, Rufio.
Who's your favorite horror character?
Oh, you know what? This is the funniest reason. Okay, so me, you, and Myers, we've been the best of friends for a hot second now. Mm-hmm. And recently I just started to learn how to develop friendships, So my son, who is 14, he just started to learn, to hear mom talk about Chris and Jason. Well, I he's my last child, so I kind of babied him and just recently let him start watching scary movies. So every time he's talking about Jason Voorhees, he's like, that Jason Myers guys with the mask. It's every time. So right now, Jason Myers, Jason Voorhees is my favorite, just because
I've
of that.
never heard of it before. What?
All right.
Did you know you took your first name and your last name and you mixed them up with your? Oh my goodness! Yeah.
I guess we just need to get you a mask now. Lastly, well, no, not lastly. I got two questions on. What music do you like, and do you find a band that you continue to go back to?
I am, and I don't think I'll ever grow out of it, but it was actually the first music that I was ever really able to have my own. And I have been an Eagles fan for as long as I can remember, which everybody always makes fun of me. They're like, 90% of those songs, you weren't even born yet. I'm like, but they're the Eagles, I love them. You can't go wrong with the Eagles.
Awesome. And then lastly, what have you recently been reading without giving too much of a spoiler?
Gosh, I have been all over the place. I have been sent tons and tons and tons of books for this month as a gift. So I'm trying to read a little bit, everybody, but Jody Clark, who's not horror, but I got somebody sent me one of his books, and it's actually about music, and I love it. I never thought I could click with the book about music, but it is, and it's clicking, and so it's great. I reading a couple arcs. Jason's is one of them. So I keep busy, and I'm all over the place with my reading. Are you guys like that?
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh yeah. I'm all over the place.
A little bit, yeah.
I go from one extreme to another.
Right. Yeah, you just it's like, do I need to cry this day?
Yeah. I think that's
Well,
all.
you want me to start asking you some questions now, Chris? Huh?
Yeah, Chris, hot seat time.
I was just writing more down for you. I'm gonna pick your little brain a little bit. I'm gonna call these the hard spooky talk. I'm gonna talk some hard spooky stuff with you.
Awesome.
Let's start with the hard stuff first. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
All right. String cheese. Are you biting it or are you pulling it apart?
I'm pulling it apart. Yeah.
You're one of them.
Piece by piece, I'm just slowly just tearing that thing apart.
You're a monster. All right. So when you're writing or doing podcasts and such, do you have snacks? And if so, what are they?
Sometimes, typically I have my Pepsi. Or I'm chewing on mint or gum or something. I don't like to typically eat when I am on the podcast. So yeah.
Are you a noisy gum person?
No, I do not like smacking at all.
Good.
That drives me absolutely bonkers.
Good.
And I would slap somebody for smacking.
He's taking notes right now. You see this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to meet him in person soon.
Do it.
Yeah. All right. Another hard one here. Brace yourself.
Oh God.
What's your favorite dinosaur?
Favorite dinosaur?
Yeah, buddy.
Oh my God. What the heck is that one called that's got the wings? Pterodactyl.
Pterodactyl.
I really like the flying ones.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah, that one.
Excellent. Stegosaurus was the correct answer. I'm sorry you failed that one. Here's a question. So, on your table, what do you bring? Show ready. What's your table looking like?
Oh my God. Bookmarks that I've made. My books personally. I know I made freshies and stuff like that. For the Texas event. I will be making keychains for the future. More bookmarks. Possibly making plushies.
No, Type C. Hang on, I gotta get my Chromebook plugged in. Okay. Keep going. What you got? I'm looking at your table. What's your books look like?
What's on your table right now?
Oh, sorry. What's on my table? Oh my God. School books.
No. At your event, what's on your table? That's what we're talking about here.
Like right here?
No, your table at the events, like when we go to Texas.
Anyway, okay, so aside
from so I have like this giant board that I stained and did everything on with lights, and I did like bookmarks that are resin. I made.
So I'm gonna see it. So I'm looking forward to it when I'm there. I want to make sure I see it. So I'm glad that you're gonna have it all lit up and stuff.
Yeah, it's all lit up and everything. You won't miss it.
He's like a child. He's gonna start moving stuff.
Oh, that's gonna bother me.
Aside from reading horror, like what are your palate cleansers?
Oh man, I read horror, I read splatterpunk, I read romance, I read erotica. I read a lot of books that are based around the Holocaust. I have really grown interested and intrigued with true stories, as well as just stories that are based around that era. So
nice. So in your neck of the woods, where you said a creek.
It's a correct.
So where your cricks are at, would you have like events that you can get into, like local stuff that you're doing? Like what are you doing locally? How do they know that you're an author where you're from?
I have actually not done anything around here. I'm still trying to learn how to do that. I know that we do have farmers markets and stuff like that around here. So I was talking to our mayor, who I'm good friends with, about getting me a vendor table and, planning on doing that this year.
Nice. Little baby steps, and it's awesome.
Yes.
Okay, here we go. You're reading it. You're writing it. You see it on the page. The dog, is it going to live, or is the dog not going to make it?
That's a tricky
In your perfect world, what's your feeling of it here?
I will be honest. I mean, I personally don't like when the dog dies because I love animals. Very soft-hearted when it comes to that. But I mean, if the dog has to die for saving somebody, I mean, it just has to die. But
fair. Which is perfect, because that segues me to my next one. You freaking animal killer. You got pets in the house, and what are they? What are their names? Are they cute?
So I have 6 animals total. I have a pit bull, and her name is Eleanor. I have a German Shepherd, and his name is Easton. I have a Chihuahua, whose name is Macy. A cat that is named Priscilla. And then I have 2 ferrets, which my daughter keeps renaming them. So they went from Wednesday and Enid to Wednesday and Tyler, because we found out the white one was actually a male. And now they are Stitch
Taylor and Travis.
Angel. Stitch and Angel now. So yeah.
What is your absolute favorite music, and why is it the 90s alternative?
Well, I grew up in the 90s, so that's just my thing. However, my go-to favorite is Falling in Reverse. I love them.
Nice. And then in your fastest and bestest, most awesomest explanation, what is the difference between splatterpunk and extreme when it comes to horror stories?
Oh, wow. Well, to me, extreme splatterpunk is specifically blood, guts, and you see it all, Extreme is more of a psychological getting to you part. Not as much gore or blood and guts, but it still, really gets you thinking. Nice.
Bobby, same question. In the way that your brain works, just because I'm curious how I'm gonna ask everybody. I just want to know what's the difference in your world from splatterpunk and horror when it comes to spooky stories?
Okay, so I had to ask this question. Okay, so I had to ask this question earlier because I was really confused about it myself, because there's a pretty fine line from what I'm understanding. And from what I'm learning is that splatterpunk, there's a humor behind it a little bit with the kills. And extreme is straight and serious murder, blah, blah, blah. Blood and guts.
Okay. Like I said, I'm asking what your opinion are. I'm not going to give what my answer is until somebody one day asks me.
Jason Myers.
But that's going to be a question that I ask everybody. It's going to be, so that's cool that we're going to get to introduce ourselves today and what we're doing and who we are. So we're going to, I'm going to hear everybody, anybody we talk to.
Right. Well, we got about 2 minutes before our guest arrives, and we hit a commercial break, I believe. So, any more final questions or anything from you guys?
How do you put your shoes and socks on?
1 foot at a time.
Well, no, smart ass. Okay. I'll answer the question first. All right. The way I do it, because it's the way I do it, is sock, shoe, sock, shoe.
That's so
Everybody
weird.
says they do it, sock, sock, shoe, shoe. But I mean, how do you do it?
Socks first and then shoes.
Yeah.
Both socks and then shoes?
Yes.
And again, I mean, I have children.
I can see our guest is over there chiming in answers. You're going to get your chance, buddy. You just wait. You're going to have to answer to all of this.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, like, I have 2 children. So half the time, I'm just slipping flip flops on to do what I need to do.
You don't have seasons.
Yeah, that's me, Chris. I will wear flip-flops all year round if I can. Matter of fact, there was one time, this is the reason why I hate snow, ice. I slid. Oh, got to take a commercial break.
We've been talking today with people who say they're obsessed and in some cases in love with serial killers and murderers. And then you've met some of the family, some of the victims. Now meet Hart. Hart publishes serial killer comic books. This one, Boneyard Press, Spreading the Fear in '92. And he says that violent crimes happen all the time, and his comic books don't add to the problem. This is a Jeffrey Dahmer. Is it a Jeffrey Dahmer edition of the comic books? Have there been more than one, or is this it?
There's been a few other serial killer comics that I've done, yes.
You've heard the parents of 2 of Dahmer's victims. You have given us a quote that says, why don't Shirley and Catherine just go home and heal instead of spending their time talking to the media? Why do you feel that Shirley and Catherine should not have talked to us?
Basically, the only reason they're here is so you can profit directly on their pain live while it happens right here. That's the only reason they're here. You brought them here for one reason.
You're the one that's profiting. She's not profiting.
I'm not profiting anything. She's making thousands and thousands of dollars by you crying on TV, suffering on TV. I did a comic book about a killer as a journalistic exercise.
You must know that I work for a company.
That we do not like your comic book.
The whole talk show industry is based on festering wounds. You take people, you exploit them right there. That's what you're really interested in, Sally, huh? The bottom line is your pocket.
Wow.
All right. That is tonight's guest right there, ladies and gentlemen. He is comic book artist, author, poet, man of the word, Mr. Hart Fisher, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello there, everybody.
Hi, how are you?
Hey. Very well. How are you, Mr. Fisher? How are you doing, Hart?
Here to blow some stuff up.
Awesome.
Hence the Unabomber outfit.
But
unfortunately, right before I came on the air, I've got a litter box in here. I've got cats. Son of a bitch, I have cats. I have cats, damn it! And the little fucker came in and took a shit in the litter box, so you'll have to bear with me for some of this incense. They do it to me every time I clean it out and it's fresh. They're like, I can't wait. Who's first?
That's awesome.
Poor Chris up there. She has no idea what the heck the Unabomber is. Oh, you're so young.
Ted Kaczynski.
Oh, she's so young.
In the 70s, also not known to the public, a victim of MK Ultra. Oh, gee, you mean he was a normal person until the CIA dosed him with LSD over, was it Harvard or Yale? I can't remember quite yet. But hey, we're going to go back to books now. I see Chris pushing, he's going, books, but this is part of what I write. This is part of why I'm an expert about true crime. It's why I'm an expert at getting that nerve on an author or a writer and knowing how to get the best out of my creator as a publisher of comic books, poetry, person who's done feature films, television shows, owns the American Horrors TV channel, which I believe is the best horror channel in the world. And it's totally free to watch on Roku or online.
You said poetry, Hart. You said poetry, which is great because Chris up there, she's a poet at heart too. and you're a Hart, and she's a poet at heart. And I know she was reading some of your stuff. So, Chris, what are you talking about? You're just talking about his book and his poetry.
Yeah. So I actually was reading some of the American Horror Story, and it's very fascinating with the approach that you took, because with my writing, it's simply just different stuff. With yours, it's a story. And I love that it's different. I haven't read anything like it before. What got you to writing poetry and writing it in that format?
It's because I was a fractured human being. That style of writing came to me because I'm a victim of violent crime. Most of my friends have been raped. I've dealt with so many murders. I grew up in a very violent part of the south side of Chicago. And so to me, violence was kind of a normal thing, but an ugly thing. Mm-hmm. And when my girlfriend, Michelle, was raped and murdered in the middle of making my first film, The Garbage Man, she was my third girlfriend that had been raped. So I dealt a lot with this kind of savagery. And it really, I broke. I totally broke when Michelle was raped and murdered at this motel robbery, and my father was involved. It was a sex crime. It was in the middle of the Jeffrey Dahmer books that I was doing and the controversy over it. So the media thought this is a chance to go, oh, well, don't you know what it's like to lose a loved one now? And as a horror author, an author of splatterpunk, you get a lot of blowback from creators that are like, how could you write this? And it's like,
for the late and great Pee Wee Herman, you did it. You said the word of the day for me. You said splatterpunk. I'm going to catch you right in the splatterpunk zone right here. In your Mr. Hart Fisher opinion, tell me the definition in your world of what splatterpunk and extreme is. What's the
well, it's not even my definition. I was there for the birth of it. Okay. So I was the generation in the 80s that was supporting David J. Scow, that was supporting John Skip and Craig Spector, that was buying the limited edition works of Ed Lee. So I was there for it. I was there for the birth of Faust in comics. I feel that Faust from Tim Vigil and David Quinn and North Star Studios was the birth of splatterpunk in comics, but there's a thread of that in the underground comic scene, the works of Richard Corbin, some of the early heavy metal, some epic. The thing about splatterpunk that you need to understand is part of it was a total joy in the gore. It was about the gore. It was the reveling in the gore, reveling in the torment, reveling in the torture, reveling in the shock value. You know, if you read Ed Lee's Torso, or also I went from working with these gentlemen and being a fan, like a huge fan of splatterpunk, to working with Glenn Danzig and being managing editor at Verotic.
You know what I know about Glenn? I know about his mother.
Mother, bring her home to death. No, I've broken out. I've worked with Glenn off and on for way over 30 years. We're friends, great guy. Sure, you're going to butt heads with Glenn, but I was tasked to be the managing editor of Verotic, and I co-wrote the most controversial story in the Verotica series, Taste of Cherry, which is about a snuff film. And when I write, I'm looking for an emotional hook. I'm looking for a hook to dig in. My problem with splatterpunk, and I remember like the German films like Der Todesking, or there was the same, I can't remember the director's name, but he did Der Todesking. And then he also did this Necromantic, and it was all about fucking dead bodies. And seeing that splatterpunk genre had been in horror movies for a while, where you celebrated in the mutilation of people, you celebrated in people being torn apart, and that's what splatterpunk is. Extreme horror, that's a broad name, man. That's broad because extreme is different for every person, but splatter and gore is pretty specific. Guts on the floor is not the same as a John Sanders novel at the airport, okay? So when someone says extreme horror, I'm dealing with this issue in the notion of what's an outlaw comic, because as the publisher of Boneyard Press, the publisher of the Jeffrey Dahmer books, and a lot of the oeuvre I'm responsible for, we kept pushing the boundary of what is the edge? What is the edge? And as you got into horror, the edge is different for, let's say, a war veteran, okay? I had a bunch of fans come back from Iraq, and we were talking about my comics, snuff, and rough trade, and they were talking about watching a Serbian film and laughing, but they were in such a intense situation.
Dude, I get it. I get it. I wanted to be military bad. Like, you know, I graduated in, you know, 01 and then 9/11. I was like, sign me up. No brainer. Let's go. And Mr. Myers, unfortunately, you can't join the Army. You can't join the Marines. You can't join the Navy. You failed the hearing test. Here's a T-shirt. You failed the hearing test. Here's a T-shirt.
Do you have bad tinnitus, or you just don't hear so well from too many metal concerts?
Huh? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so like, I'm like, okay, but I ended up being a medic, you know, being an EMT and everything. So I got to, you know, I see things a different way where the way I envision a call or a run, I would talk to it with a buddy, and all of a sudden it gets, you know, he's like, I don't even remember that run. I'm like, what, dude? That thing haunted me forever. He's like, I don't even remember it, honestly. I'm like, shit.
I had a big conversation with my doctor. I'm under care. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and my doctor's ex-military. Well, not ex. She's still active military. She's a lieutenant colonel. I will go ahead and say it. Her name's Dr. Savage. She's been a friend and a good doctor for me since 2015. And so she was a paramedic, and we had a conversation just yesterday about some of my fears of fucking up some things with my mother's inheritance. My mother passed away a couple years ago, and I'm handling all of it for me and my brother. My brother's in California. His wife's in a wheelchair. His son is autistic. So I'm the point man here, handling stuff for him and for me and his family. So she was talking about this notion of responsibility on the rig on her first day of paramedic class, and the notion of her instructor saying, hey, you're going to be responsible for these injecting drugs or making decisions where someone's going to live or die. But
I'm sorry, you said injecting drugs and making what?
If you make a mistake, someone can die. You know,
yeah, you said something about making decisions. Wow.
Yeah, there you go, decisions. And the thing that she was trying to implant to me was for every hardcore drug on the rig, there's an opposite drug that'll fix your mistake. So remember that when you're dealing with some of this stuff, with your mother's stuff, like, hey, even if you fuck it up, you can unfuck it, you could fix it, and that's been resonating with me for the last couple of days.
Here's what absolutely ruined it for me, or just that feeling that, okay, when COVID hit, we were nonstop. We were on the rig. When you're on shift, you're on it nonstop. Absolutely. You're running COVID calls the whole time. You're running everybody. Yes. So that starts to take a toll on you a little bit there. And then when all of a sudden the people that are, hey, if you get off your ass and you come work at Burger King, I'm going to pay you $20 an hour. Wait a minute. Wait. You fuck up an order and you put ketchup on a burger the wrong way and they didn't want ketchup. You're getting 20 an hour and I'm getting, 15 top pay for my EMT level or whatever.
I think we're going to cut for commercial.
We'll be right. Promo needs a voiceover, Chris.
Yeah, I just texted him. I got it. Yeah. All right. Hey, Chris, why don't you ask Mr. Hart down there the hard stuff? Get into some deep questions. Talk some shit. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. So one of my questions is, what to you are the most important elements of writing?
Be true to yourself. Know the audience you're writing for. Okay. As a professional writer, when I'm hired by Cherry Magazine to write those shitty penthouse forum letters, I'm responsible for what my employer is paying me for. I'm doing a job as a professional writer. So when I do a movie, when I make a film and I've got investors, I must also be responsible for the money that I'm being given to make a film. As a writer, you have to be responsible for yourself, because at the end of the day, okay, this thing happened to John Skipp and Craig Spector. They were multi-million-dollar best-selling authors in the late 80s, early 90s. These were the hot new flavor of horror, and I'm friends with John Skipp. He lived down the street from me in Highland Park, Los Angeles. And John and I did this interview for American Horrors, and I'm like, what was your biggest mistake? And he was like, hubris and ego. And one of the things he talked about was the publishing company rushed out an anthology title that they did. They rushed out the anthology, and it literally killed their career. The sales on it were so crappy, and they allowed the publishing company, they allowed somebody else against their better judgment to rush out a project because they wanted it. They were eager. They were enthusiastic. And the project was shit, and it killed their fucking career, guys. They were selling 1 million books a copy, and this one error fucked them. And that's a thing, you have to be true to yourself as a creator. You have to know, I can't release this book. And they're going to go, oh, Hart, it's okay. I'm a professional producer. I can see a rough cut. Liars. Never release anything unless you're ready to release it. It's part of why I'm late with the Big Book of Dahmer omnibus. It's part of why I'm late with the Big Book of Bull, because I know that when the Build a Bull omnibus comes out, it's going to be out, and it's going to be on the shelf. And look at my career. My books have been selling for 30 damn years. I should know something about this. So you're the one that's going to have to sign that book later. No one's going to want to hear the story. When you're in the movie theater and that movie plays, you won't know the story how the production company fucked over Alex Proyas on his release after The Crow, this really great sci movie involving aliens and telepathic, and it's a great movie, and I'm brain farting on the title, but the audience won't know why you caved. They're only gonna read the book. They're only gonna hear the poem. And so, like, when I was writing poems for the dead, I was a fractured human being. And so I was just writing stuff on paper and napkins, and it was strewn about my house, and my woman had just been raped and murdered. So I was a shattered human being. And it was a friend of mine that was like, wow, Hart, this poetry is really good. This poem, you should do a book. And he brought us to a spoken word house where we could hang out and talk, and we'd be constructive instead of trying to destroy each other, which I think is a problem with social media. People get caught up in wrecking each other instead of, like, it's the work. It's about the work. It's not about your ego.
How do you celebrate after getting your book out, your work out?
Yeah.
Well, that's a tricky one because it changes. Like, for me, now that I finally got the proofs of the hardcover of Poems for the Dead, me and Christopher have been waiting for a while to get this from Amazon. It's been delayed. It's been sitting there. So I get it. I'm like, I can't wait to show everybody. I started doing more spoken word. I've done spoken word performances around the world. I've opened up for bands, and I've opened up for a goth band in Mexico City. That's a trip. That's a real trip when you're reading your poetry in English, and then your translator, Libertad, an upside down cross in her forehead, reads the same poem in Spanish.
Oh wow, that's
all these videos of these, like, metal shows and rap concerts, and now they have, God bless them, they have the interpreters, and they're just going into it. Yeah, I'm like, oh, get it. Oh, yeah, so I feel you.
Well, not only did I hear my work said in Spanish, I got to hear it through a female voice, and that was really interesting.
Right. What's your downtime? How do you decompress after writing some of the hard stuff that you write about?
That's kind of tricky. I mean, I've been a lifelong practitioner of the martial arts. So that's something I do. I do a lot of martial arts stuff. I do a lot of meditation and breathing. Sometimes it's hard to come back. It can be really difficult.
The time.
Like, I've disappeared from venues. I've been in a venue and snapped and flipped the fuck out. And they found me hiding under stairs in the back alley behind some garbage cans because I was flipping the fuck out. I was going bananas because when I do a live spoken word performance, I go where I was and I drag the audience with me. I make them come with me.
Well, what's some of the, all these places that you went to and stuff? Like, there's got to be places that you like, dude, this band played here, and I'm playing the same stage that this person was. And can you believe, like, what are some of those highlights that you went through? Because you seem like you do some shit.
There's a goth bar in LA. It's hooked up to Bordner's. So I've done spoken word performances there. Most of the bands I've done stuff for, they never became anybody huge. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I was on the third stage for Coachella. One band was a record release party in Compton. So I was down in Compton for this record release party for the BCGs, and I opened up for them. And I love the band, but man, bands destroy themselves pretty quick. It's really hard to keep a band together. It's really hard to make a music career happen. It's tough. There's so much tension.
I want to ask some silly. I don't know if my co-host would help me. I want to ask some like really fun, off the wall, stupid, non-book related, silly questions just to get to know Mr. Hart a little bit. But they got to be rapid fire and answer really quick.
Rapid
you guys
fire.
In?
Do it.
All right.
Red vines for days. Let's go.
I'm going to start off by asking, what is your favorite animal? Go.
Dog.
Chris?
You're thinking too hard.
A bird, what would it be?
If you think you're not.
No, you got to answer Bobby's question. Favorite animal.
Me.
Yeah,
We're all
fast. Don't think about it. You got to pop it out. This is a psychology exercise.
Yeah, I would be a bat, totally.
Myers.
Dogs, absolutely. 100% dogs. Love them.
Okay, favorite color? Mr. Hart.
Green, no, blue. Oh!
Chris just chimed in from the backstage over there. Chris Pelton, who's hosting us, he just
he's off camera. No one wants to hear about Chris. That guy's on camera. We're here. It's us now. Chris, you stick in the comment section, you little man.
A wombat is the only animal that's got the square poop.
And that is true. Okay, so what was it? Favorite color? Chris, your turn.
Oh my God, I've got like several. Black or teal.
You can change.
Yeah.
Myers.
All colors together.
Myers.
The absence of color.
Baby blue. Okay. Favorite vacation spot? Mr. Hart.
I don't know if I should say my own mind or a lovely woman.
Oh, thank you. Chris.
The beach.
Myers.
Oh man, I like a staycation. Give me that.
Okay, mountains or ocean, Mr. Hart.
Hart didn't get the hard question. He didn't get you. What's your favorite dinosaur?
Oh yeah, okay. What's your favorite dinosaur, Mr. Hart?
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Solid.
My mom.
Mountains or beach?
What is one of your guilty pleasure reads? I will tell you mine is actually Jodi Picoult. I enjoy a good Jodi Picoult palate cleansing here and there. What about you, Chris?
Me. Oh my God. Nicholas Sparks.
I
know.
Hey, what's yours?
Oh gosh, now you made me do. I know. I love true crime. I'm sorry, I love true crime. I will read it every single time. Guilty pleasure.
Mr. Comic Book Artist, Mr. Author, Mr. Hart Fisher, what is your guilty pleasure read? What is in your Kindle? What is on your shelf that you don't want people to know?
What is my guilty pleasure read? White supremacist texts, because they're fucking morons, and I want to see how the moron thinks.
Okay, I can dig it. And I saw you chime in earlier from backstage. You're getting ready for the day. Are you going sock, shoe like a weirdo, or are you going sock, shoe like a normal person?
You guys are all fucking candy asses. I'm a martial artist, so I do all kinds of those Karate Kid moves, wax on, wax off, in my daily thing. So I stand on one leg and put the sock on as a balance exercise. Then I stand on the other leg and put the socks on as a balance exercise. And then I'll sit down and tie my shoes, or I'll stand up and bend over and tie my shoes one at a time. Or I might hop around like a bunny if I'm naked and my balls bounce and make my girl laugh.
There's that. There's always that option too. What about pets in your house? Do you have any fluffies? Do you have any creepy crawlies? Do you have any slitheries? Do you have any furry little babies in that house?
When I lived with my brother in Los Angeles, we had 9 different boa constrictors and articulated pythons and those kinds of animals. And I found out my father was absolutely terrified of these snakes when I came out with the albino python, and it was reaching out for him. And I've never seen my father so scared. that's utterly terrified. But for me, in my household, I've got the little critters with the claws, and so I inherited my mom's. He looks like the Fancy Feast cat grown up. He's got long, beautiful white hair, and we call him the Southside Cat because he's from the South Side of Chicago, and it's Southside.
Southside.
And he doesn't have his front claws, so he doesn't swipe like a cat. He fucking palm strikes you like a fucking martial arts kid. The first time he got into it with my chick's cat, he fucking.
They just get rude for no reason.
The fucking cat's head did a whoa. He didn't know what the hell hit him.
I'll die on that hill. Dogs over cats. That's why, because they're just mean, just for the sake of being
they're
mean.
assholes. They really are. My cat bit me, and I ended up having to multiple times in one sitting, and I actually had to go to the doctor and get a tetanus shot and like a really high dose of antibiotics.
I had my late wife's cat Velvet. We used to call him the $1,000 cat because he gave me $1,000 ER bill. And I beat that motherfucker within an inch of his fucking life. Nobody fucking bites me, motherfucker. You guys mentioned earlier in the show about killing things. Well, I've had to euthanize many cats because we had a rat problem at my house, which you could see on YouTube for the Verminators. So I had to deal with these cats coming into my yard, and I had a 90-pound pit bull. So my pit bull was already killing these giant rats. And then the cats would come in, and the pit bull would protect its yard, and I'd have to put these cats out of their misery. And it was
wait. Before you spoil the ending, let me segue into how can we read such shit that's inside of that mind? Where can we find Hart Fisher stuff online? I want to know, where can I find more stuff of yours? Where are your books? Where's your shows? What's going on? Where's Hart Fisher at? How can I find you?
Well, the best place to watch the television channel American Horrors all day, all night, all horror. It is totally free to watch on Roku. It's in
Where's
your
that
app
Roku
store.
remote?
And then I have an Instagram account. I can't remember the address, but if you look up like Hart D Fisher, I think it'll come up. But be forewarned, there's shots of me naked making bacon. So be forewarned, trigger warning. And then I'm on Facebook. There's the American Horrors website, www.americanhorrors.net. And you can advance order the Poems for the Dead limited edition hardcover there. You can get signed versions of An American Horror Story there, which is my first-person accounts of my ordeal with true crime, me being on Sally Jesse Raphael, me dealing with a man who raped and murdered my first love, Michelle. And that's where Poems for the Dead comes from. And we're working on the next sequel, Poems for the Dead 2. It's going to be a series that me and Chris are working on. I've got a lot of unpublished work. So we're going to have a good year. This is going to be exciting.
If I know Chris, like we all know Chris, he's going to give links and he's going to post it, and you're going to be able to find everything that is Mr.
I'm on Twitter too, or I'm at X. I'm on X.
Let's give it to you. Well, Chris, I appreciate you joining us for our first night. Bobby, I love that you're joining us for our first night. Hart, it was great to have you as our inaugural guest tonight on the
my camera worked tonight. I was on Max DeVille's show, and the camera just the software wouldn't read it. So it's great to finally debut my Unabomber look.
There you go. It was Mr. Unabomber. Chris, we'll fill you in on what that is another time. You're so young. Oh, she's so young. She's so young. And we're going
she's got kids. How young can you be? Oh, wait. You could be pretty young in this country with lots of kids. I'm sorry.
Next time on NP Armageddon, we are your source for full coverage of the presidential debate, where the candidates will make their cases to the people. Who should rule Los Angeles? Is it disgraced former president Truby Skullgore?
Actually, I think that's a great idea.
Political activist turned terrorist Hart Fisher.
When do we start? I'll throw a party. I'll get a band. We'll have a keg.
Or elderly statesman Old Man Stimson.
You young punks with your narcotics and your hope for the future. I say.
Moderated by NP Armageddon's own Brian Garcia McMillan Keithley.
Well, ain't this just a kick in the head?
The marketplace of ideas is running low on inventory, and democracy is on back order.
Featuring the voice talents of Harlan Ellison, LeJean, Hart D Fisher, Barbara Goodson, Heath Corson, Amy Dallin, Tay Zonday, and many, many others.
Hell yeah! Can you dig it? All this and more in NP Armageddon Episode 10, The Presidential Debate.